Today, we're going to look at 4 new thinking skills that adolescents develop in the post-childhood years. Understanding these new abilities will help us better serve our kids. My name is John Gehrig. This video is one of a series on adolescent development. You can download notes for my videos from the Youth Ministry 22 website. Links are provided in the description below. Are you ready? Let's go! What new thinking skills can we expect in our adolescence? The first skill that adolescents develop, and that children do not have or find difficult, is the ability to think abstractly. Concrete thinking deals with straightforward observations and clear connections from everyday life. Abstract thinking deals with ideas that are more complex, intangible. Abstract thinking is necessary to understand the symbols, phrases, metaphors, and parables in the Bible. Children usually understand the direct meaning of a passage, but not always its figurative meaning. Let's look at one example. One of my favorite parables of Jesus, the parable of the 2 builders in Matthew chapter 7, verses 24 to 27. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. This is an interesting parable for kids, yet Jesus is not just telling us the secrets of building a house, but something deeper. Many years ago, I told this parable to my 7-year-old son. I knew it was abstract, but I was a teacher, right? I was sure I could explain it in a way he would understand. When I finished my brilliant explanation of what the house, storm, and foundation meant, I asked him if he understood my explanation. He shook his head. No. What are the meanings of the words house, rock, sand, and storm? Most Bible teachers would say that the house is the life of man. The sand is the shifting, uncertain world we live in. The storm is the difficulties of life. And the rock is faithful obedience to the teaching of Christ. A teenager who is already thinking abstractly will understand both the literal and figurative meaning of the parable. As with physical development, adolescents reach these new cognitive abilities at different ages. I developed physically early, but I think I was one of the later ones to develop abstract thinking. In youth group, I was often puzzled at all the observations and applications others were making when they studied the Bible. I just couldn't see it. It wasn't until I was 15 that the light bulb came on. The second new cognitive ability that adolescents acquire is the ability to recognize their own and others' thought processes. They are able to understand more clearly the point of view of others. In our family, when our kids were young, we had family movie nights on Sundays. I would make popcorn and we all watched a movie together. If the movie was particularly sad, my wife would cry. Sometimes I would cry too. One night, during a touching moment, one of our children said, "Mom, why are you crying? It's just a movie. It didn't really happen." Why do we cry when we watch movies? We cry because we can feel what that person is feeling. We can empathize with them and see the situation through their eyes. It's harder for younger kids to see things from someone else's point of view, but teenagers can. Adolescents also become more aware of their own cognitive processes. For example, they can analyze what works best for them in their studies so that they can make necessary adjustments. Teens are prone to self-analysis because they are now able to see themselves from the outside. They consider what others think of them. This is what makes them more shy about doing things that may be perceived by others as childish, silly, or uncool. Communication can actually improve when a teenager is able to see the point of view of others. When they understand their parents' perspective on life, communication between them changes. A son who wants permission to go out is now thinking, Mom will probably be against it, so I need to find a good argument for her. I'll promise to do my chores first and not to stay out too late. In our family, our teenage son began to understand how we felt after a hard day's work. He wanted to help more and would say, I know you're tired. I'll do the dishes. We almost fainted. We couldn't believe our ears. There is a downside to this new skill of recognizing the point of view of others. Teens often think they know what others are thinking about them, but just as often they're wrong. Teens' perception that the people around them are constantly watching and judging them is called the imaginary audience. We'll talk more about this imaginary audience phenomenon in the next video. In addition to the ability to think abstractly and better understand another's point of view, the third new skill is the ability to consider multiple factors at the same time. For example, I remember a time when I sarcastically said, "Ha, what a great movie!" Later, my young son was surprised to learn that I didn't really like the movie at all. He said, "But you said you liked the movie." My son heard my words, one factor, but did not catch my intonation and facial expression, other factors. Adolescents, on the other hand, can take more factors into account at the same time than kids, so they read the situation better. This allows them to solve complex problems and understand different points of view, appreciate new levels of humor, master advanced mathematics, such as trigonometry, and think hypothetically. A fourth new cognitive skill for adolescents is the ability to see situations in relative terms, not just absolute ones. Children see the world in black and white, but adolescents are beginning to see gray areas. Something is good in one situation and bad in another. This skill can create not only flexibility in thinking, but also skepticism and even doubt. Here's an example. I like to play a game with teens called Agree, Disagree. I read out a sentence and ask them to vote. Thumbs up if they agree, or down if they disagree. One statement might be, if you find lost money, it's okay to keep it. This usually leads to questions like, how much money is there? Do we know who it belongs to, etc.? How they vote depends on the situation. Often teenagers vote with their thumbs to the side, which means they think that sometimes it is okay, sometimes it's not okay. It depends on the situation. As Christians, we believe in absolutes, in things that are always right or wrong. However, there are still times when the answers are not so clear-cut. We can give teens biblical principles to guide them in these murky situations. So, in review, here are 4 new cognitive abilities that adolescents are acquiring. The ability to think abstractly, the ability to recognize their own and others' thinking process, the ability to consider multiple factors at once, and the ability to view a situation in relative terms. In the next video on teen development, we'll look at some pitfalls that come with these new skills and how we can help. If this video has been useful, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to check out the free materials on the Youth Ministry 22 website. Thank you for your interest in understanding and guiding adolescents. God bless you. See you next time.